I am a wimpy crybaby, who only knows how to cling to women and wine. But the system wants me to redeem the heroine. I forcibly squeezed into her bathtub, crying saying, I'm afraid to bathe alone. Liu Ruoyan walked onto the rooftop. I rushed over, hugged her, and wailed, you are not allowed to die. If you die, I won't be able to live either. The day the system came to check the mission, it found the heroine acting spoiled towards me. It turned around and asked, what did you turn my gloomy heroine into? Who let you in? In the misty bathroom, she was looking at me coldly. There were several bleeding cuts on her arm, and held a cold gleaming knife between slender fingers. What is she doing? It goes without saying. I trembled all over at the sight. Subconsciously wanted to flee, but I forcibly held back. Can't help it. Who let the person before my eyes be my mission target? Liu Ruoyan, a world-weary lady seeking death daily, and my mission is to keep her from dying. Therefore, facing Liu Ruoyan's gaze, no matter how scared I am, I cannot run away now. It's just that although my body was controlled, but my emotions were not, because I am just a wimpy crybaby, good at nothing since childhood. My tear ducts are exceptionally developed, so I was supposed to persuade Liu Ruoyan now, but I opened my mouth before making a sound. Tears disappointingly gushed out first, dripping down pitter-patter. Liu Ruoyan, her cold expression cracked for a moment. I asked doubtfully, am I that fierce? No, it's you who barged into my bathroom, and you started crying? I stayed silent, just shedding tears. Forget it, seeing my wimpy appearance. Liu Ruoyan didn't even bother getting angry. She casually pointed to the door. You get out now. I can choose not to. Hold it against you. I asked cautiously. Then after I go out, what will you do? Liu Ruoyan revealed a fake smile. Does it have anything to do with you? Of course it does. If the mission target dies, I will be erased too. But Liu Ruoyan ignored me. She treated me as air. Her expression became gloomy again. She picked up the knife on her own, as if she might stab herself at any moment. I panicked and disregarded everything. Subconsciously lunged forward. Forcibly threw myself into Liu Ruoyan's bathtub. Bang, in an instant, water splashed everywhere. Liu Ruoyan couldn't react in time, and fell into the bathtub with me. Liu Ruoyan choked on water, caught off guard. Her wet hair stuck to her face. She wanted to sit up, but found she couldn't move, because I was holding her tightly, to prevent her from being impulsive. Since just now, I was like an octopus, clinging to her with all four limbs. Now Liu Ruoyan's pale face turned green and red. She forgot to push me away for a moment. Shocked. What are you doing? I hemmed and hawed for a long time. The mission matter cannot be exposed. I can only make a reason on the spot. So my brain short-circuited, and I had a bright idea, saying, sorry, actually I'm very afraid of bathing alone. So I wanted you to accompany me. Hearing this, Liu Ruoyan's face looked even worse. Are you a child? That you can't even, afraid of even a bath? Seeing he didn't believe me, it was time to use my killer move. Biting my lip, I squeezed out a few tears, then raised my red eyes, staring at him pitifully. I am not a child, but when I was still a child, I was often left at home alone, living in the slums. At midnight, ill-intentioned people would bang on the door, greeting and trying to break in, and mom's phone could never be reached. So every night I could only hide under the covers and cry alone. My voice became more choked. So after growing up, I'm afraid to do anything alone. This makes me feel very lonely, very uneasy. You probably can't understand. That's what I asked. But I knew Liu Ruoyan would definitely understand. Because the system said, the reason Liu Ruoyan is world-weary is because his mother died in his childhood, ignored by father and ostracized by peers. He could only sink into the abyss of loneliness alone, slowly becoming twisted and despairing. He knows the taste of loneliness better than anyone. Sure enough, I got right. Liu Ruoyan's hand, which was about to push me away, froze for a long time. Put it down. He revealed a face, with an expression of I really deserve to die. Said helplessly with some regret. Alright, they'll accompany you to wash, okay? Wipe your eyes. Don't cry. Wait. Who let you wipe on my clothes? Ignoring his breakdown, a small firework went off in my heart. The first operation to save the mission target was a huge success. Liu Ruoyan is a highborn wealthy young lady. But after her mother died early, father brought illegitimate children and lovers home one after another. Thus, Liu Ruoyan, in the absence of parents, and the bullying of illegitimate children, grew up, her personality thus becoming dark and world-weary. Even though she's just a 19-year-old girl, yet she holds a grudge against this world, and hates herself too. The above is all the information about Liu Ruoyan. At that time, I was choosing my mission target. I was smiling, holding the information interface, planning to find a little lowly to conquer. But the system suddenly popped up. You go save Liu Ruoyan. Me? Yes, just you. I suddenly couldn't smile anymore. I am a cowardly crybaby, who only knows how to cry. Asking me to act spoiled to conquer women is acceptable, but asking me to save a woman who wants to commit suicide, when I be killed by Fan Diao first, I don't want to. But the system comforted me saying, good luck, in a certain sense. Your mission target is also a little lowly. You will definitely like her. Isn't this right? But before I could object, my vision went black. When I opened my eyes again, I had already transmigrated as Liu Ruoyan's marriage partner. Forget it, you'll just bite the bullet. Although I don't know how to save Liu Ruoyan spiritually, but saving him physically is still possible. So these past few days, I moved into Liu Ruoyan's house in the name of her fiancé, then secretly darkly monitoring Liu Ruoyan to prevent him from seeking death. This trick is very effective. Yesterday I successfully saved Liu Ruoyan, who was seeking death in the bathtub. I must continue to work hard today. Thinking this, I turned on the monitor as usual, staring at Liu Ruoyan in the study. He today did nothing at all, just quietly writing the whole time. I couldn't help but smile with relief. Great. Seems like he doesn't want to die much today. A breeze blows past. Warm clear sunlight shines on Liu Ruoyan's face, writing beautiful characters one by one on white paper. What a pleasing scene. I admired it thoroughly with satisfaction, then zoomed in on the surveillance monitor. Then let me casually check the content of the writing. Burial at sea after death. Ashes not buried in the Zai family ancestral home. All inheritance to be donated entirely to the orphanage under mother's name, etc. This gloomy content. It's a suicide note. Realizing it too late, I scrambled into the study and snatched the paper from Liu Ruoyan. Liu Ruoyan paused. Then a layer of mist appeared in his eyes. Xu Yuzhou, what are you doing again? Don't think just because you are my fiancé that you can do whatever you want to me. Don't forget, we are just in a business marriage. The cold voice was full of displeasure. His really angry this time. As soon as I was scolded, my nose immediately started stinging. Tears gradually filled my eyes. Just a business marriage. I repeated it, pretending to be heartbroken. Is that really what you think? Liu Ruoyan was stunned. My tone became increasingly trembling. When I first knew I could marry you, I was secretly happy for a long time, thinking someone would finally be here to accompany me. That I would finally have a home. So you actually don't like me? Liu Ruoyan choked up. She was helpless against my falling tears, and could only soften her tone first. I didn't say that. You calm down. Give the paper back to me first, okay? With a face full of tear streaks, I handed the paper to him. I understand. This paper is so important to you that you had to write it secretly hiding from me. It must be a love letter to someone you like. It's all my fault. When I heard I could have a marriage alliance with you, I happily agreed. But I didn't expect to intrude on your relationship. I will go see uncle right now and propose breaking off the engagement. Wait, Liu Ruoyan finally couldn't help grabbing me. What mess are you imagining in your head? Did I say I wanted to break the engagement? Uninstall your novel app. Okay. Although his words were not polite, his actions were completely different. He reached out and tore it. That suicide note full of despair shattered with it. Amidst the scattering paper scraps, Liu Ruoyan sighed resignedly. Helplessly, I really lost to you. I won't write this anymore. Is that all right? His ears turned red, and he added in a low voice. Also, I never said I didn't like you. Don't think nonsense anymore. After saying this, Liu Ruoyan left quickly, though it looked more like fleeing in panic. I couldn't help laughing out loud. After getting along these past few days, I've discovered that Liu Ruoyan is actually very soft-hearted. Can't stand seeing me cry. It's just she's stubborn and would never say it. Watching Liu Ruoyan's receding back, I skillfully followed secretly. Approaching him now is not as scary as the first time at all. It feels like teasing a tsundere kitten. It's quite fun thinking like this. Unknowingly, I followed Liu Ruoyan to the rooftop. The sun was setting, and the evening breeze was blowing. She leaned lazily against the railing. Her slightly furrowed brows gradually smoothed out, as if she was just relaxing in the breeze. But in my eyes, it was absolutely not funny. I only saw a desperate person, walking up a high-rise in the lonely twilight, with a hint of relief on her face. I was so scared my eyes went wide. The next second I rushed out, and hugged Liu Ruoyan tightly. Don't do this. You can't jump. Liu Ruoyan looked at me in shock. Actually, I just came to get some air, but I couldn't hear a word. Big drops of tears fell on her. I tightly gripped the clothes on her back, crying until my whole body trembled. If you die, what will I do? Your life is my life. If you die, I can't live either. Boo-hoo. If the redemption target dies, I will also be erased for failing the mission. I shed genuine tears for my own miserable fate. But Liu Ruoyan seemed to misunderstand something. She froze on the spot. Am I that important to you? I nodded frantically. A trace of confusion appeared in her eyes. But we are obviously just marriage alliance partners. We haven't even met before. If I died, you could go to someone better. No. I shook my head frantically. No, I only want you. In my heart. Your life is more important than anyone else's in the world. At that moment, Liu Ruoyan's breath hitched. In the depths of her eyes, usually dark and unchanging, suddenly a cluster of starlight lit up. After a while she spoke softly. Thank you. I never knew that there was still someone in this world who valued me so much. The April spring breeze blew past, blowing away the gloom in her eyes from this year. Liu Ruoyan looked at me, and in her eyes was an unprecedented gentleness and brightness. For the sake of your feelings, I will try to live on. I was almost moved to tears. How was this sentence different from a death exemption medallion? I was overly excited for a moment, and threw myself directly into Liu Ruoyan's arms, rubbing against her in pleasant surprise. It's great that you can think this way. I am really happy. Liu Ruoyan's body stiffened instantly, clearly not yet used to such intimate physical contact. But she reached out her hand, and embraced me awkwardly and carefully, like a child learning to respond to emotions for the first time. Liu Ruoyan's pale face was dyed with a blush. Her earlobes were completely red. She added another sentence in embarrassment. And you're not allowed to look at me with those teary eyes. I had to hold back my tears, but I was puzzled. Wasn't she gentle just a moment ago? Why did her face change so suddenly? Is this the moody female lead? But seeing Liu Ruoyan blushing, I thoughtfully took a step back, and didn't ask any more questions. Instead, I went along with her and said, sorry, I just really wanted to be close to someone. If you don't like it, I won't touch you. If I can't help it in the future, you'll go find someone else. That is even more forbidden. In the days that followed, I finally didn't have to monitor Liu Yuyan from the shadows, but could openly stick by her side, because Liu Ruoyan became much more tolerant of me. Of course, even if she didn't tolerate it. Once I cried, she was forced to tolerate it. Although Miss C is world-weary and dislikes people, and doesn't take anyone seriously, she is completely helpless against my tears. In order to stop me from crying, she is almost obedient to me. If I want to eat hand-rolled noodles, she would knead dough all night with a cold face. If I tore my clothes, she would stay up all night learning to sew. Even if I casually remarked, the mission is such a headache, she would drive hundreds of kilometers overnight to the hospital to buy me painkillers. Isn't this a bit too exaggerated? Actually, my ordering Liu Ruoyan around these days was just to give her something to do. If her energy is distracted, naturally she won't be thinking about suicide every day. That's what I originally thought. But looking at it now, if things continue like this, Liu Ruoyan won't need to commit suicide. She'll die from overwork first. So I spoke up tactfully. Actually, you can rest for a while. I won't rush you. Really don't stay up anymore, sister. I'm scared. But Liu Ruoyan shook her head, not caring at all. It's fine. I couldn't sleep anyway. Even if I sleep ill, just have nightmares. She blushed and coughed lightly. I'd rather do something for you. At least this way I'm a bit happier. I fell silent. That night, I turned on the monitor after a long time. In the dim room, I saw Liu Ruoyan sleeping with her eyes closed. But she was sleeping very restlessly. Her breathing was rapid and chaotic. Her brows were deeply furrowed, and there was a thin layer of sweat on the tip of her nose, as if she was suffering from a nightmare. My heart clenched inexplicably watching this. I suddenly remembered. The system once said, Liu Ruoyan has a sleep disorder. As soon as she falls asleep, she gets entangled in nightmares. Her psychological problems are getting worse because of this. After all, the day is painful enough, and she has to be tortured by nightmares at night. Anyone would go crazy. So I hesitated no longer, and walked directly to Liu Ruoyan's room. Then I arrived at her bedside. Just as I wanted to make the next move, she suddenly grabbed my arm tightly with one hand. Liu Ruoyan had opened her eyes at some point, her eyes full of vigilance and defense. She spoke in a cold voice. What are you doing here? If it were someone else, they would have been scared away by her now. But I am different. The next moment, I naturally climbed onto Liu Ruoyan's bed, and burrowed into her blanket. Can't I sleep? I moved to your house too in a rush before, and forgot to bring my body pillow. Now I'm not used to sleeping every day. I flashed a smile at her. So ill trouble you to be my human body pillow. Liu Ruoyan was shocked by me. Her face suddenly exploded in red, and her voice became stuttering. Wait, we are still just unmarried. We haven't known each other for long. Is it really normal to sleep in the same bed? Without blushing, or my heart racing, I hoodwinked the innocent lady before me. Of course, to normal people, an arranged couple is still a couple. Since we are a couple, isn't it only right to sleep together? Having said that, I didn't wait for Liu Ruoyan to answer, and shrank directly into her arms. Perhaps because she had just been tormented by a nightmare. She was cold all over. But luckily, I've always been like a little furnace. Warm all over. Body heat was transferred to our touching skin. Soon the whole blanket became warm. Liu Ruoyan was stiff all over at first. Every part of her body screamed resistance. But when a person is in a warm environment, subconsciously they feel safe and comfortable, thus generating drowsiness. Liu Ruoyan was no exception. I touched the dark circles under her eyes, and whispered, You've worked hard these days. In return, let me accompany you for a good rest. Good night. That night, Liu Ruoyan finally had her first good sleep in 19 years. A dreamless night. When I woke up the next day, Liu Ruoyan had already gotten up. I stared blankly for a moment, taking a long time to come back to my senses, and asked, Why are you up so early? Won't you sleep a bit more? She said while busy. Not sleeping anymore, maybe next time. I'm going to see some relatives today. Relatives. Hearing this keyword, my ears pricked up instantly. If I remember correctly, none of Lu Ruyan relatives are good people. Indifferent scumbag mom. Arrogant illegitimate siblings. Every one of them is the culprit making Lu Ruyan world weary. If Lu Ruyan really sees them, my mission will be in danger. So I volunteered. I want to go too. Before I finished speaking, a small tomato was stuffed into my mouth. No, Lu Ruyan rarely rejected me. Her eyes were full of indifference. Just a bunch of disgusting things. You don't need to see them, but I don't want you to see disgusting things either. I swallowed the small tomato, then raised a sincere smile. Besides, we are husband and wife. Whatever storms there are, I want to face them with you, can't I? Lu Ruyan paused. Her earlobes instantly redder than the tomato. She asked somewhat awkwardly, why do you always love sticking to me so much? Because I'm afraid you'll do something rash alone. No need, I promised you before that I would live on. I keep my word. Lu Ruyan, she rubbed her forehead, said helplessly. Lu Ruyan finally couldn't beat me, and could only take me to the J family banquet. The J family is a top wealthy aristocratic family in the capital. Just a family banquet, and the scene was filled with fragrance and luxury, shining with the scent of money everywhere. However, turbulent waves were hidden under the calm surface. A boy came in front of me and Lu Ruyan smilingly gave a greeting. Wow, sister brought her fiancé this time too. It seems the partner we picked for you in the slums back then, you are quite satisfied with. Sister is really broad-minded, treating a poor person's child like a treasure. Little brother really needs to learn from you. As soon as these words came out, everyone around laughed out loud. They looked me up and down, the one from poverty, while laughing, not hiding the disdain in their eyes at all. The hostility around Lu Ruyan suddenly intensified. But before she could say anything, I opened my mouth first with a smile. Haha, it's all right. A poor person's child is still better than a mistress's child, right? Luckily, I was born to poor people. At least I still have a chance to be treated as a treasure. If I were born to a mistress, I would have jumped right after birth, let alone brazenly going to the rightful owner's house for a family banquet. Now the illegitimate children present couldn't smile anymore. Each one's face turned ashen. Obviously, they didn't expect I dare to speak up and fight back so harshly. Are you kidding? I may be useless usually, but when it involves Lu Ruyan, that's different. After all, I used all my strength and means, and even cried, for a whole month, just to barely stop Lu Ruyan from seeking death. If anyone makes her unhappy again, he'll have to get desperate with them. The illegitimate children pulled long faces on the spot. Someone said indignantly, people with no upbringing are truly rude. Who do you think you are? What business do you have talking to us like that? I was just about to hit back, but I felt Lu Ruyan hold my hand. Her hand was very warm, giving a reassuring strength, but the words she spoke were ice cold. She spoke in a low voice. He is my fiancé, the future family master, whatever he likes to say. You just take it. But if you dare, in front of me, to say one bad word about him. Lu Ruyan's eyes were gloomy. She swept a glance across, and everyone was terrified. I will make you unable to speak ever again. No one would doubt the authenticity of this statement. After all, in their eyes, Lu Ruyan is a lunatic who doesn't even care about her own life. What is there that she wouldn't do? Therefore, everyone present shut their mouths, silent as cicadas in winter. However, there are always brave warriors in this world who don't fear death. After the banquet ended, Lu Ruyan's eldest sister blocked her sister. I advise you not to be too arrogant. Now that you've grown up, and your wings have hardened, you dare to challenge us. But have you forgotten how, when you were disobedient as a child, you were taught a lesson by us? These words were like a needle piercing the heart. Lu Ruyan's pupils constricted slightly. Of course she hadn't forgotten. When she was young, this group took bullying her as pleasure. They often locked the young Luoyan in the basement for 3 days and nights without water or food. If Lu Ruyan resisted, they would forcibly inject cheap sedatives from who knows where into Lu Ruyan's body. That medicine was indeed effective, able to make Lu Ruyan faint instantly. However, it also had side effects. Lu Ruyan's current sleep disorder came from this. As soon as she closes her eyes, the residual drugs in her brain would compress her nerves, plunging her into painful nightmares. Recalling this point, Lu Ruyan's breathing stopped for a moment, but it was only for a moment, and she calmed down again. So what? What can you trash do to me now? The smile on the eldest sister's face widened. Of course we can't do anything to you, but I can stall you. She blinked her eyes, smiling maliciously. Sister, you were so busy chatting with me. Didn't you notice your mother's memento is missing? Lu Ruyan's face froze. The eldest sister laughed loudly, daring to oppose us. This is the outcome. I just found a completely empty corner for your mother's memento, and set it on fire. I'm afraid it has turned to ash by now. Are talking about this? I suddenly spoke up, interrupting his endless flow of words. I opened my palm. Inside was impressively a simple, ancient amulet. Lu Ruyan and eldest sister looked at me in shock. One gaze moved. One gaze venomous. Eldest sister reacted first, coming over shrieking, impossible. I specifically found a corner with absolutely no one to burn it. How did you find out? I chuckled. Absolutely no people. Does it mean absolutely no cameras? Back when I wanted to monitor Lu Ruyan, I filled the whole house with miniature camera heads to ensure 360-degree zero dead angles. She wanted to find a hidden place to do bad things, but was still too naive. Of course, I wouldn't say this reason out loud. Eldest sister, flustered and exasperated, tried to snatch the amulet. Eldest sister fell directly to the ground and spat a mouthful of blood, just as she was about to get close to curse. She saw Lu Ruyan staring at her with a look that wanted to kill. His tone was full of coldness, enunciating every word. Get lost, don't touch her. Eldest sister was instantly scared pale. She didn't dare stay any longer, limping away, running flying fast, as if afraid someone was chasing to kill her. But Lu Ruyan didn't pay attention to her at all. He immediately turned his head and carefully opened my hand. Voice trembling, your hand. How did it become like this? My palm was red and swollen, and had grown a few blisters. I felt a bit embarrassed and wanted to pull back my hand. Seed, there was no way, so I had to answer truthfully. At that time, I found your sister burning the relic. I wanted to find water, but it was already too late. The amulet is so flammable, it would turn to ash in seconds. So in a panic, I just used my hand. After listening, the look in Lu Ruyan's eyes was overflowing with heartache. He said, anxious and angry, are you stupid? Just for this, you touched fire with your hand? He carefully applied ointment to me, but the words he spoke were unexpectedly cold. Actually, you are mistaken. Relic or not, I don't care about this kind of thing at all. Let it burn if it burns. I froze. Lu Ruyan lowered his eyelashes and continued coldly. My mother was in poor health. She died before I could remember things. The only thing left to me was this tattered amulet. So I don't really have any feelings for her. Of course, she surely had no feelings for me either. After all, since birth, everyone around me has hoped for my death, hating me to the bone. If she were alive, it would surely be the same. No. Before Lu Ruyan could finish, I covered his mouth with my hand and said anxiously, don't say that. It's not like that. Now it was Lu Ruyan's turn. To freeze, I tried to organize my words and explained. Earlier, when I picked up the amulet, I saw 3 characters on it. Nanshan Temple. You may not know, Nanshan Temple has 1,080 steps. To pray for blessings, one must bow every 3 steps. This road is long and bitter, and the date on this amulet is 19 years ago, when you were just born. Which means, I looked straight at Lu Ruyan seriously. Your mother who was in poor health, not long after giving birth to you, struggled to climb the mountain for a long time, kowtowed for a long time, and prayed for this amulet for you. She definitely loved you very, very much. Liu Ruoyan's pupils suddenly contracted. Eyes full of disbelief, I lowered my voice and continued, also, this amulet has been hanging in your room. Mom must have known she was leaving soon and wanted to watch over you in this way, staying by your side. You are not alone. So don't say he doesn't love you anymore. Don't think no one wants you to live anymore. Mom would be sad to hear these words. Liu Ruoyan's eyes instantly turned red. She gripped the amulet tightly, opened her mouth, but couldn't say a word. There was emotion in her eyes, regret and also confusion, like a dazed child who finally realized her mother's love in hindsight. But her mother was already no longer by her side. I couldn't bear it. Reached out and hugged her. Besides, in this world, the people who want you to live are not just Mom alone. I also really hope you can live well, safe and sound. These two sentences came from the heart, unrelated to the mission. Liu Ruoyan suddenly hugged me back tightly. Warm tears fell onto my neck, wetting a patch. This was the first time he shed tears in front of me. He said with a trembling voice, I'm sorry, I won't do things that worry you anymore. After that, Liu Ruoyan never sought death again. He was no longer negative, but started investing in projects, establishing companies and pouring energy into his career. Liu Ruoyan was naturally gifted, and before long, he made a name for himself in the business world. Such a hot new talent. I was quite amazed by Liu Ruoyan's transformation. I couldn't help asking him why he suddenly got interested in work. He looked straight into my eyes and said seriously, the things that happened before made me realize it was all because of me. That caused you to be mocked by others and get your hand burned. So I want to become strong, to protect the people important to me. My heart suddenly skipped a beat, and then I belatedly clutched my heart. Usually innocent and shy person suddenly threw a straight ball. It's really a bit overwhelming. After that, Liu Ruoyan's path became smoother and smoother. Even father started to treat him with great affection, sending him lots of care and gifts, expressing a belated motherly love. Although Liu Ruoyan rejected them all, no one doubted Liu Ruoyan's noble bloodline, and that he was young and promising. Definitely the guaranteed next heir of the Xie family. People in the circle are shrewd. Originally, for the sake of the Axie family, they were polite to those illegitimate children, but now they turned their backs overnight, avoiding the illegitimate children like the plague. The illegitimate children were stomping in anger, but now they didn't even have the qualification to contact Liu Ruoyan, so they settled for the next best thing, and came to me. That day, Liu Ruoyan's second sister suddenly popped out from out of nowhere. Heard you are the man who has been encouraging Rian? I was confused. The second sister sneered. Men are truly stupid. You are deeply devoted to her, never leaving or forsaking her, but once he makes it big, the first one he kicks aside will definitely be you. I sighed. That you've gone mad with anger? If you had actually met Liu Ruoyan twice, you wouldn't say such things. After all, these past few years, Liu Ruoyan has practically written the words in love all over her face. She doesn't even pretend anymore. Not only does she obey my every word, but she also loves clinging to me. She needs me to hold her to fall asleep at night, and needs me in her sight during the day to feel at ease. I feel that even if I played a neglect game with her someday, and ignored her for a few seconds, she would immediately come up to me looking aggrieved, begging for my attention. I can't imagine someone like her dumping me. But second sister just sneered. Do you think you inspired Liu Ruoyan? That you're so great? What a joke. In her eyes, your existence is her greatest shame. Second sister narrowed her eyes slightly. How do you think someone from the slums like you got engaged to Liu Ruoyan? I froze. I hadn't really thought about that question. After all, when I transmigrated here, I was already Liu Ruoyan's engagement partner. You were carefully selected by us. A wasteful, cowardly, stupid, and destitute man. Second sister laughed. We knew Liu Ruoyan had a phobia of men, so on the night of her 18th birthday, we announced the engagement between you and her, as a gift to her. She wanted to refuse back then, but because she had no say in the family, she was forced to accept this joke of a marriage alliance, and became the laughingstock of the Xie family, and the laughingstock of the entire upper-class circle. My heart suddenly tightened. Second sister turned and left, laughing loudly. So, you are the culprit who ruined Liu Ruoyan. You are the witness to her shameful past. How could she possibly tolerate you? Now I was left standing there stunned. I always thought I was redeeming Liu Ruoyan, but it turns out my very existence causes her the most pain. In the glass tank in the distance, a few small fish were swimming. The light was constantly shattered by the waves, reflecting grotesquely on my face. I was confused for a moment. It turns out Liu Ruoyan is just like the small fish in this pool. Her dignity ignored, her pain watched for amusement. Even her marriage was decided by others. Forced to get engaged to a good for nothing like me. Trapped in a small world for her entire life. Unable to swim out. My heart sank. Liu Ruoyan is a good person. Even though she was hurt by me, she is still willing to tolerate me now. But I should be more sensible. I can't let her be trapped by this absurd engagement for life. It's better to leave now, and set her free. I returned to my room, and started packing my luggage. But as I was packing, I suddenly remembered my system mission. These past few years were so carefree. I hadn't paid attention to the mission progress. Thinking this, I opened the panel, only to find the redemption value bar was almost at 100%. I was just about to be happy, when suddenly, the progress bar went crazy, and started dropping continuously. 90%, 80%, 70%. The progress bar took a massive dive. I was shocked. What is going on? I rubbed my eyes in panic, wanting to look more closely. But out of the corner of my eye I suddenly saw a figure appear at the doorway. I instantly froze on the spot. Liu Ruoyan had arrived at some point. He looked at my luggage spread all over the floor. The corners of his lips slowly curled up, but his eyes held no warmth. Motionless as a log, reminiscent of the feeling before a storm. I looked for you for a long time and couldn't find you. So you were here packing luggage. Where do you want to go, baby? This word was originally used by me to tease Liu Ruoyan, pestering him to call me that. But now hearing him say it, I only feel my scalp go numb. The current Liu Ruoyan is much more mature than back then. When his face turns cold, that chilling oppression honed in the business world can no longer be hidden. I am just as cowardly as ever. I knelt down on the spot, explaining in a panic. I just wanted to go on a trip. I didn't plan to go far. Liu Ruoyan smiled. Going on a trip requires emptying the whole room? Looks like you plan to live permanently at the scenic spot. Then shall we go together, baby? Liu Ruoyan is sharp and vigilant. Is meaningless. There was no other way. I had to use my final trump card. I stared at Liu Ruoyan, silently reddening my eyes. Liu Ruoyan coldly told me crying was useless. Where exactly are you trying to go behind my back? My tears began to pour out in big drops, soaking Liu Ruoyan's clothes. Unexpectedly, Liu Ruoyan held out for less than 10 seconds. He finally lowered his head helplessly to wipe my tears. Don't cry. I'm sorry, baby. I shouldn't have been fierce to you. It's all my fault. But you have to tell me why you want to leave. I promise I won't blame you. Waiting until this final guarantee, I finally dared to speak. I don't want to marry you anymore. Snap. In an instant, Liu Ruoyan's finger suddenly tightened, knuckles turning white from the force. He stared at me and spoke with difficulty. Why? Did I do something wrong? I hurriedly shook my head. No, you are very, very good, but my expression immediately dimmed. It's me who isn't good. Getting engaged to a good foreigner thing like me must have caused you to be mocked by many people. So I don't want to bind you with a marriage contract anymore. You are free. Before I finished speaking, Liu Ruoyan extended his slender soft fingers and knocked on my head. He looked at me with exasperation. To think it was for this kind of reason. You actually listened to others' mockery. I told you to uninstall the novel apps. Why didn't you listen? What? I am free? I am yours. I was knocked a bit hard by him. Liu Ruoyan sighed. He raised his head and looked at me, his tone becoming firm and gentle. Also, you are not good for nothing. Quite the opposite. It is because of you that I am no longer good for nothing. Saying that, with red ears, he took out a ring box from his pocket. I originally wanted to give it to you later. But if I don't give it now, you might run away. I was stunned for a moment, likely watching Liu Ruoyan open the ring box and put a priceless diamond ring on my hand. At this moment, only my figure remained in Liu Ruoyan's eyes. Burning love swirled in his gaze. I love you so much that I don't want to be apart for a single minute or second. He lowered his head and placed a cherished devout kiss on the back of my hand. Stay by my side. At that moment, my heartbeat was like raindrops in spring. Noisy and rapid, overwhelmingly filling my entire world.